What's up, YouTube? The Zen Trekker here, giving you a little update. Now finished my second week at JB Hunt, local Intermodal. So as you can see, I'm home for the weekend, and even better, I'm home every night. I'm working about anywhere from 9 to 11 hours a day, and they are paying a pretty good rate for training. So it's been real good. So the first 2 days was orientation, and that was the week before last, Monday and Tuesday. I had those 2 days of orientation. The first day was pretty kind of a standard orientation day. They go through like the driver's like manual. Show you a couple of videos like about the history of JB Hunt. You fill out a bunch of paperwork, like typical stuff for a new job, and like orientation at a trucking company. The second day, there were two primary things we did. One was we did some sort of a physical test. It wasn't hard or anything. You just kind of went into a room, and there was like either a PA or a nurse or something, and they attach a bunch of electrodes to you, and you kind of move your head back and forth, and you twist, and they tell you to do certain movements while the electrodes are there. And I guess it's some sort of a baseline test that they use for workers' comp or something like that. The other thing we did on day 2 was we went through the Smith system, and then we went on a drive with their Smith system instructor. It was in a van. There were 5 of us in the van. We each got a turn to drive, and the idea was really just to demonstrate our knowledge of the Smith system after learning about it, in the classroom. Pretty standard stuff. Everybody, that is coming on board with JB Hunt's intermodal division, local intermodal division, has at least 6 months driving experience. So everybody knows how to drive. The question is, do they know how to drive using, all of these key elements of the Smith system, which is pretty straightforward. If you don't know the Smith system, it's basically, look far ahead, keeping your eyes down the road, depending on where you are. If you're on a freeway, down the road about a quarter of a mile. If you're, in like city driving, it's a couple of blocks. The second element is checking your mirrors. I think they said every 7 to 10 seconds, according to the Smith system. But checking your mirrors, checking your gauges, basically, scanning your surroundings often so that you know where every vehicle is around you, so you're aware of your surroundings. The next element is keeping space, enough space between you and the other vehicles, especially the vehicles ahead of you. And they say 7 seconds, but they also recognize that if there's heavy traffic, 7 seconds is pretty tough to maintain. But they did, so they did acknowledge that sometimes, you may have to keep a 4-second buffer between you and the vehicle in front of you. Anything below 2 seconds is dangerous. The next one was, communicating your intentions. So, tooting the horn if you need to, using your directional signals, just communicating your intentions to vehicles around you. And I think that's it. Anyway, you could look up the Smith system if you want more details. But anyway, after the 2 days of orientation, I got on a truck with a trainer. The purpose of the trainer is not to teach you how to drive. Like, they assume you know how to drive. It's really just to teach you the logistics of running intermodal with JB Hunt. Learning the apps that they use, learning the tablet, learning the lay of the land at the rail yard. The LA rail yard is pretty big, and could be pretty confusing. It's not bad once you've driven around it a bunch of times and you're going in there every day. You start your day at the rail yard, you end your day at the rail yard, and sometimes you're there during the day as well, depending on how many loads you're pulling back and forth. But at the very least, you're always starting your day at the rail yard and ending your day at the rail yard. So you get to know that pretty quick. Within the first couple of days, I had a pretty good grasp uh, of the rail yard. A couple of things came up like this week that I didn't run into last week. So, for example, we picked up a trailer on Friday, yesterday, and the chassis was bad. The lights weren't working. So we took it to a mechanic, and JB Hunt has a mechanic driving around the rail yard. But he wasn't able to fix it on the spot, so we had to go and find a new chassis, which meant we had to flip our container. So in order to flip the container, you gotta you basically go to this line, where the trucks line up for this one crane that basically spends the whole day flipping containers. Which, for those who don't get the terminology, that means pulling the container off the chassis. They hold it. You then go around. You go drop your bad chassis in a yard that we have, where the JB Hunt mechanics will go and they'll fix the chassis in that particular lot. And then we go and we find a good chassis. And then we take it back to the crane, who then takes your can and puts it back on your chassis. So it's been good. I've been training with my one-to-one trainer since, it's like a week and a half, like a week and 3 days. And it's been good just to it's given me a lot of time to kind of learn my way around, like the city streets by the rail yard, learn the rail yard. We've gone over to the Commerce rail yard. That's a pretty small yard. So the main thing is just learning how to get in and out of there, because it's a lot different getting in and out of there than getting in and out of the LA rail yard. Just learning the lay of the land. You got warehouses that are very, very close around the rail yard and the terminal. It's pretty densely populated in that area. So the warehouses that you hit in that area are really tight. A lot of like super tight yards. So getting used to, backing into these tight docks with not a lot of space to maneuver in the yard. We've had a few where we actually had to back in to the yard and the dock off the street. I had a blindside back at one place. So getting used to that. The further you go away from the yard, like the last couple of days, we've been going out to Moreno Valley. The further away you go from, that sort of urban setting, like near the LA rail yard, the bigger the warehouses seem to get and the more space they seem to have in their yards. So it's been really good. My trainer is really good trainer. He's been with JB Hunt for 21 years and has been driving for a lot longer than that. He's been with the Intermodal division for over 10 years. Everybody that I've talked to at JB Hunt, most of the people, like aside from like the new guys who I've been meeting as they finish orientation or they were in orientation with me, but the vast majority of the drivers that I've been meeting in the division, I've been there forever, man. It's like, this guy I met's been there for 26 years. Somebody else, 15 years, 12 years, 20 years. I mean, all these people have been there forever. So it's a good company for the whole training period, including orientation. They're paying us $20 an hour, and any time over 8 hours, they pay time and a half. So I'm making probably not quite as much as I would if I was driving on my own, but pretty close. So I'm not in a big hurry to finish up training because I'm still making, decent money while I'm in the training. And the trainers, I guess, are paid pretty well too. So they're not in a hurry to, to graduate you out. But, definitely very fair, very helpful. Like I said, my trainer's great. He's like super patient. Um, helping me with a lot of things. Like the driving is not the issue. Like I can drive. I can find my way around. I learned the tablet and all the apps pretty well. He introduced things pretty slowly to me, so I wasn't overwhelmed at the start. So he was giving me a little bit at a time, which helped me to grasp like each little tidbit that he presented like each day. So, by the middle of this week, I was pretty good with the tablet, pretty good with all the logistics of what you do at each stop, what the requirements are for JB Hunt, how do you communicate back and forth with your fleet manager. The biggest thing for me is just getting my backing skills down. So I've only been driving for 6 months, and I didn't have to back into many docks when I was over at Schneider. So backing in at the rail yard, a little bit of a challenge for me just because I'm not used to backing into tight angled parking spaces. So just like getting those angles down is different, than doing like a 90-degree back in like a standard yard or like backing into a dock. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm really happy. I like the company. They pay you for everything. So like once I'm on my own, you get paid for mileage. You get paid for deliveries. You get paid, one particular rate for a drop and hook, another rate for live loads. If you're detained for more than, an hour and a half at a live load, you start making more money. It's like $15 for the first hour, and then $20 an hour after that for your detention. If you're detained at the rail yard, if there's like a long line or something that detains you more than an hour at the rail yard, you get paid. If you have a mechanical issue, like our mechanical issue with this chassis, from the time you report your mechanical issue until the time it gets corrected, or you get, an operational, in our case, a chassis with the container, drop back onto it, we were getting our mechanical detention pay, or he was. I would have if I was solo. So they pay for everything. Like if you drive over the grapevine, they pay you $10 each way just to drive over the grapevine. So the benefits are good, and everybody's really nice. So people are friendly. There's a lot of camaraderie there. Everybody, I almost feel out of place because I don't have my JB Hunt gear yet. But everybody's wearing JB Hunt gear. They wear, shirts and hats, and everybody's wearing a shirt with a JB Hunt logo on it. Most of them say JB Hunt Intermodal. And it's not required. It's not like they have like the uniform Nazi running around telling you, hey, you got to wear your JB Hunt logo. It's not required, but everybody wears it anyway. Kind of an indication of the kind of culture it is there. So I really like it. I expect this to be my last stop for a long time. I expect to be at JB Hunt in the intermodal division for a long, long time. I could tell already, man. It's going to be home for me. So that's all I got. I hope everybody out there is doing well. If you're a driver, I hope, be safe. Watch the heat. It's pretty hot out there. And friends and family, love you guys. Thanks for following me. And if you're a new driver and, you want to chat, feel free to shoot me a message, and, we can exchange information. I'll be happy to chat with you and, share war stories. And with that, I will say peace.